latest season of Alone in the Wilderness has kicked off with just 8 contestants in the Norwegian forest, the smallest group yet. But this group is the most skilled yet. Their survival abilities and awareness have totally amazed me. The last one standing wins $1 million. Let's dive into day 1. First up is Mad. He doesn't seem very excited to be here. Next is Suni. She arrives wearing a not-so-green hat and starts crying. Maybe she remembered her wife cheating on her? He came here just to change his lifestyle. Winning the $1 million prize could get him 100 wives. Upon landing, he took off his green hat because he's alone here. Finally, he doesn't have to wear it for others to see. But once the excitement wore off, he saw that the wilderness was way scarier than his wife's emotional hit. Animal tracks, likely from a black bear, cover the ground. Next up is Henrik, who finds himself in a rocky area. His spot is mostly rocky. He immediately starts knitting a sweater and seems to enjoy the environment. The rocks on the ground are hard to walk on, but they're better than the durian peels at home. The 4th contestant is Fleming. He's another middle-aged guy in his 40s. Seems like the initial group of contestants are all middle-aged men. This survival area is mostly facing the sea with mountains at the back. Fleming's spot is quite good. Let's see how he performs. The 5th contestant is Henry, whose full name is Henrik, just like Rick. To avoid confusion, the show calls one Henry and the other Rick. They refer to one as Henry and the other as Rick. Henry, like Rick, is a middle-aged man with 2 kids at home. Life is okay, but he joined the show to earn some extra money for his family. Henry usually enjoys outdoor hiking. He is very confident about this survival competition. Among all the contestants, Henry is the only contestant with a personal intro. Is he the show's early favorite? Let's see if he can go the distance and win. Henry's spot isn't as scenic as Fleming's beach, but considering the surroundings, it should be a good place for fishing. The 6th contestant is Rams. At 39, he's already a grandfather. Upon arrival, Rams was thrilled. He looks like a strong contender and even found a stick on the ground. He plans to make a weapon for self-defense. Despite looking like an old man, he's actually in great shape. Rams started exploring with the stick, taking a walk around. This spot is quite nice, and the grass on the ground is soft. Sleeping on the ground should be fine. If he finds food, he might outlast the show's budget. Rams found 2 wooden planks on the beach with some nails in them. These could be very useful. The 7th contestant is Lena. At last, a female contestant. Though she's around the same age as the older men, Lena took in the view and began to cry. When a girl cries, it usually means things are tough. Sometimes, it's just good to have a cry first. Lena's spot is full of big rocks, which should be good for fishing. She got nervous as soon as she arrived and walked into the water to calm down. The 8th contestant is Meta, another middle-aged woman. Any woman who can live alone in the wilderness must have some skills. Her hunting skills may be lacking, but she can endure hunger like a champ. Can't wait to see how Meta does. Rams came back from exploring. He started singing. Is he celebrating his victory early? He really likes this environment. He plans to build a temporary shelter here. There are plenty of sticks around to use. In no time, he set up the framework. His hands-on skills are indeed impressive. He even labeled his water bottle. After a drink, he began constructing the temporary shelter, setting up sticks and covering them with a waterproof sheet. He used stones to secure the edges. He'll make do here for the night. Mad has already set up his temporary shelter. He went to the shore to observe and found the water very shallow. To catch fish, he needs to go deeper with a net. In a flash, he stripped off his clothes. He took the net and went into the water, exuding an irresistible charm. Mad's progress is quite fast. He began net fishing right away. Contestants who prioritize food often succeed. Day 2 dawned. Fleming woke up early. He slept well last night. He decided to try fishing at sea today. Whether he enjoys his time here depends on his catch. He searched for raft materials but only found dry wood on the shore, making shore fishing tough. He needed a plan. Drinking water from the nearby stream was easy, but fishing there wasn't worth it. Fleming explored the area and found an old iron barrel. He wasn't sure why it was there, but he decided to investigate. The barrel looked ancient. He dragged it to the shore to see its potential. After checking it out, he found it mostly intact. Fleming decided to turn the barrel into a raft by securing 2 wooden poles to its sides. Then he tied the barrel and poles together with rope. Although it was a good idea, it seemed difficult to make the barrel support a person. But after trying it out, it worked quite well. He hoped the raft would be useful. Meanwhile, Rams had already woken up early. He went to the shore to sort out his fishing net and caught a small fish. Though it was tiny, it was still food. He continued to pull in the net, but there were no more fish. The net was a tangled mess, likely due to the rough water near the shore. Rams lost his patience over the mess. He sat on the shore sulking. "What's up, man? Why are you sulking? Your wife isn't here, so who are you sulking by now?" Rams had no idea how long he'd be stuck here. It had only been 2 days, and he was already missing his family. He found it tougher than he thought, but chose to stay composed. Fixing the fishing net was crucial. After all, he relied on it for food. After calming down, he went back to the shore to sort out the net again. Henry, meanwhile, was in a dilemma. Being a vegetarian, he didn't eat fish, yet he had brought plenty of fishing gear. Without fishing, he'd soon be starving. Henry was torn about whether to fish or not. The pile of gear in front of him conflicted with his principles. "What would you do?" Henry tossed the fishing net into the fire. "That surprised me, but I'm sure a vegetarian can't survive long in a wilderness survival show." Fleming was organizing his sleeping area. He planned to use the materials to improve his raft. You have to admire the lengths these contestants go to for food. While Fleming was brainstorming ways to get food, Henry was busy burning his fishing net. "I just don't understand these contestants." Soon, Fleming finished his makeshift raft and took his net to go fishing. He slowly paddled out to sea. All this effort, just to catch some fish for dinner. He paddled to deeper waters and cast his net. The raft floated on the sea. Fleming felt like a ship captain, determined to catch fish. Hours later, Mad checked the net. Despite his flashy personality, Mad had no trouble catching fish. He quickly snagged 2 big ones. What a catch for just the second day. Mad was outpacing the others. The fresh fish and big pot of soup would definitely fill him up. Mad whipped up a big pot of fish soup and added some mushrooms. After eating it, a bathroom break was inevitable. Lena also caught a fish. It might not seem like much to us, but to Lena, it was 10 days worth of protein. Lena cleaned her tiny fish by the shore. Who knew a thumb-sized fish could make a whole pot of soup? I was even more amazed that she used a huge iron pot to fry a tiny piece of fish heart. She's definitely got skills. Soon, the fish and fish heart were ready. They tasted pretty good, and the fish was fresh and juicy. As a dame, she even used chopsticks to eat the fish. Impressive skills. After lunch, she explored the surroundings. She then started on a permanent shelter. I was blown away. How are they so strong this season? They hunted and feasted on day 2. They kept working on their shelters, not wanting to waste any time. Mad's fish soup was finally done. Staring at the pot of fish soup, it didn't look too appealing, but survival meant he had to eat it. Even without any seasoning, hunger is the best spice. Meanwhile, Fleming finally set up his fishing net. Fingers crossed for a good catch tomorrow. By day 3, Rick was grilling fish bright and early. The meal was a real treat. This group seems to prioritize food, which is smarter than those who rush to build shelters right away. You need to be well fed to have the energy to work. Rick found a perfect spot for a shelter with rocks as natural barriers. Using a waterproof top would simplify things. Rick noticed a large crack and planned to use it for his shelter. He kept tossing wood into the crack, but after countless tries, it still wouldn't go in. Why not just climb up and place it? If he keeps this up, Rick could get injured in this crack. He also saw the sky looking strange, hinting at heavy rain soon. The weather here is all over the place, switching from sunny to stormy in a flash. Around the lake, you get strong winds and heavy rain. In autumn, temperatures can drop to -10 degrees. In just 3 days, Meta has already built a permanent shelter. Even though it's not finished, you can tell from the structure that this shelter will be solid. I must say, the contestants this season are really impressive. Building a shelter like this in just 3 days is quite impressive. Suni is also working on his shelter, but Suni's going all out with a 5-meter tall conical shelter. Meanwhile, Henry's opted for a trapezoidal design. The wooden frame is done. Now Henry just needs to add a waterproof sheet. As the evening wind picks up, Lena is also working on her conical shelter. Meta must be having the best time right now. Next, she just needs to think about food.
Rick has been struggling.
I wanted to get into this crack, but fortunately, I managed to get into the hole in the end, which made him happy like a successful feat. He intended to drag it with a rope. Soon, a temporary shelter was ready. Once done, Lena returns to the shore to set up the net, but the wind wind was fierce today, making it hard for her to cast the net. She tried multiple times, but just couldn't manage it. In the end, he ditched the rocks. Maybe a long stick would do the trick. If he could attach the net to the stick, he might lay it out horizontally in the water. After a lot of hard work, I finally got the net set up right. As night fell, Lena still struggled to adjust to the evenings here. She only caught a small fish on the second day, leaving her hungry and exhausted. The lack of food made it even harder for her to sleep. He's exhausted but can't fall asleep. Mad hasn't eaten since his full meal on day 2. At night, hunger keeps him awake. His unfinished shelter and the tent make proper rest impossible. Lena woke up early and sat by the shore, her mind fixated on fish. She felt nauseous last night and even threw up. Maybe she's still getting used to the place. She brewed some hot tea, drank it, and then retreated to her shelter to sleep. Lee Ji seems to be doing okay, but his shelter is full of holes. He really needs to improve it. Whenever it rains, the shelter gets incredibly noisy. The weather's been getting worse lately, and a storm is on the way. Rams lives by the shore, and weather changes affect him the most. His shelter is about to be blown away, and only now does he think of moving, but it's already late. The sun is nearly down, but he decides to take apart his shelter and move. Rams finds a somewhat better spot. His comfort tonight is up to chance. Meanwhile, Met has perfected his shelter, filling gaps with moss. He even has a grilled fish to enjoy. Mad, on the other hand, has moved his stuff into his new shelter. Although it looks a bit like a doghouse, it's more comfortable than a temporary tent. With the wind picking up, it seems a big fish might come soon. On the other hand, Lena decides that if she can't catch any fish by tomorrow, she'll go home. This season's contestants are quite decisive. If they can't catch fish, there's no point in starving. Going home is better. It's better than leaving just because they miss home. That night, Mad feels sick after eating mushroom stew. He vows never to eat mushroom soup again.
What surprises will the contestants bring next?
Stay tuned for the next video update.